Hello and welcome to our third vendor showcase. The first one of these we literally broke Zoom. Stacy and I were scrambling to fix it. We got through it. The second one, Steve Trask and co ran, and it went much better. This is our third. This is usually one of the busiest events of the year. We've got a bunch of people joining. You're going to hear back-to-back, minute-to-minute presentations by almost 40 different vendor partners in the space. Now, we typically say no pitching in FinOps Foundation forums. This one is a bit of the exception where we want to hear how these vendors, how these partners, how these consultants actually solve the challenges in the FinOps framework. For those of you who are new to us, I'm J.R. Storment. I'm Executive Director of the FinOps Foundation, backed by a fantastic team, the FinOps Foundation, a lot of whom you saw in the pre-roll. We are here to help the people who do the practice of FinOps. So we are all full-time employees of the Linux Foundation, which is, I think, the largest tech nonprofit in the world that hosts, Linux and Kubernetes and other valuable pieces of software that we all rely on. And we're here to help you grow in your career. Tooling, which we're going to cover today, is a part of that journey. And as I mentioned, this is something we cover a couple times a year to help you in out that. This group is really important, and I'd make an announcement about this group. This is our Technical Advisory Council. They are made up of a mix of practitioners. We've got Domo, Apple, Target, Spotify, US government on there. They're also made up of clouds and platforms in the space, consultants. This group votes and vets the technical standards that the working groups that came up in the pre-roll put out. So working groups are on adopting FinOps, forecasting, the FinOps framework, the sort of technical direction of the foundation. We ran elections last couple of months. Big shout out to Ashley Ramatko, who spent a ton of time wrangling those elections and making them successful. And we're very excited to announce there were 6 new members elected to the Technical Advisory Council. And they are Michelle Dupuis from Walgreens, Noel Crowley from Fidelity Investments, Bindu Sharma from Guidewire, Tom Cross from Aer Lingus, Lucas Parator from CloudHealth, and Jeremy Ung from Apptio Cloudability. So a quick round of applause for those folks. Excited to see the mix of people on here. Again, a mix of practitioners, of technology providers, different industries. And what I thought was really great, this was an election that was, voted on by the Technical Advisory Council and the governing board for these seats. And these are all people who are active contributors. I mean, Bindu, you're going to hear from later talking about AWS updates. She's an ambassador, Noel's an ambassador, Michelle's a frequent participant on, the podcast in various places. All these people are plugged in, into the working groups and contributing, and it really showed in their candidate sheets and in the choices that were made. So welcome to these folks, and looking forward to seeing what this group does in the coming year. Thank you as always, and a shout out to our end user enterprise members. These are our formal partners of the FinOps Foundation who have joined our enterprise program to help accelerate their own FinOps brands for hiring and visibility, help accelerate their practices, their assessments, and to help train up their organization. So Apple, JP Morgan Chase, Fidelity, Here Technologies, and AIA, great contributors as well in the community. And if you want to know more about that enterprise program, email there on the screen. So this community is continuing to grow. Coming off reInvent, the virtual events for Google Next and Microsoft Ignite, the level of conversation about FinOps, the level of people in the community it's been really amazing to watch. Early next year, we're probably going to cross 10,000 people in this community. When we joined the Linux Foundation, right in the middle of COVID during 2020, we were just over 1,000 practitioners in this community. So really amazing to see the growth. And these are practitioners, people who are doing the practice. There's a much longer list, right, of supporters and those in the ecosystem around there. Lots of great people getting certified, a small but mighty and very powerful group of certified FinOps professionals, the highest designation in there. And we're doing a lot of work to encourage meetups. You'll see Joe out there pushing those, and Sam and Ashley and Baz working on these working groups. And we do have a scholarship program I want to highlight. Anybody who wants to get certified, can't afford to, company won't pay for it, whatever the reasons, please let us know. We want to support as many people as possible sharing and gaining this knowledge. And we're just getting started, really. This space, I think it's becoming ubiquitously known, but everyone's practices are still evolving at different paces and speeds. My two favorite graphs right now, search terms on the left for the term FinOps. 2019 reInvent, Google Next, I was there in April 2019. Nobody really knew what this term was. I mean, a few people doing it. We're a small group, small and mighty, and now, it's on the tip of the tongues of, all the organizations doing cloud. On the other side of that, the really important one is the people doing this. So the count on the right is people who list the FinOps skill on their LinkedIn or have it as part of their job title. Well up over 10,000. And this is a month or two out of date. It's probably around 15,000 people now. The interesting thing, though, is the scale of jobs that are coming out. Even with the hiring slowdowns a lot of companies have faced, we've got a massive amount of FinOps jobs out there. Every day we have people reaching out to us looking to fill roles. And so it's a great career that you're all in, where our job is at the foundation is to help advance you and honestly to help mint more of you, because the importance of this discipline is becoming central to most of the world's biggest cloud spenders. We pulled data recently on FinOps Foundation member companies, and we now have 9 out of the Fortune 10 who are in the FinOps Foundation and 43 of the Fortune 50 who are actively doing this practice. So just really amazing coverage and adoption, and all really fueled by the work of this community. I threw this in last minute because it came up in the pre-roll. We just put in the second edition of the FinOps book. If you're reading the first version, please stop. Go read this one. It's now 400 pages. It's 3 years of updates. There's outputs from all the working groups around how to adopt FinOps, how to do forecasting, how to partner with engineers, which has really become the big talk track in the last couple of years of how engineering is really leading a lot of the practice and behaviors of FinOps, available on Amazon, but not actually hitting print until February. So please check that out. And a lot of us, I want to say 7 or 8 of our team, and hundreds, if not thousands of you were at the reInvent event that happened in Vegas last week. Yeah, last week. So we had a party there with about 400 of you, in-person gathering, which was really exciting. We had so many people from the community speaking. We see Ashley Ramatko and Vic Saluja there on the bottom left speaking. We got Mike from Dolby, Kate Ferguson from Washington Mutual. I was up there with Josh Bowman and Lucas Parator. Kept running into Eric Milarchuk from Boomi at like 5 or 6 different times there. Lots of great FinOps talks and content and conversations. And again, the really interesting message that everyone sort of knew what this practice was. And instead of trying to figure out if they needed it, everyone was talking about how to get better at it, which I think is the big shift we've seen in the last couple of years. Jen Hayes, our fearless chairperson of the FinOps governing board, an SVP at Fidelity who runs FinOps practice for I think it's their personal investment division. She is speaking at our Women in FinOps event that's coming up on December 14th. I think she's the 5th speaker in the series so far. We've had great folks like our own Stacey Case, Alex Head from AWS, and a number of others who've been featured on this program. So definitely check out her talk if you go to events.finops.org. Joe is rolling his eyes right now. Events.finops.org. You can sign up for this and other meetups and events there. And of course, the big one that we really want to see you all at in person is FinOps X. It's really hard to put on a 1,000-person conference, it turns out. We're learning. We're still 7 months out, and we are spending hours every day in preparation for this, and have for months already. We're going to have probably almost 100 speakers at this event. Lots of opportunities. My call to action for you right now is to submit a speaker proposal if you are part of the community and have knowledge to share. Doesn't matter if you are new to it. It doesn't matter what part of it you're good at. We want a range of talks. I will say we are going to index more toward higher level talks at this event, because we have realized that the community is largely past the point of, do we need FinOps and what is FinOps? We're looking for stories about people's FinOps journey, how they're doing practices. You can tell a story that is all about how you failed at FinOps and you have no idea how to accomplish X, Y, and Z, and here's how you're tackling it. We want to hear those, but we want to hear about the practice, the people as part of this. So speakers get a free ticket. We are in super early bird right now. This is so expensive because it is really expensive for us to put on. We're trying to do a really high quality event. We're trying to break even on this thing. This is not a money-making event for us. And there's going to be 2 days of great content, lots of interaction points, and it's going to culminate with a party on an aircraft carrier, which is going to be a lot of fun. And the last thing I'll leave you with that we're looking for you to engage with now, as in like this week, next week, the 2023 State of FinOps survey is out for data collection. This survey drives industry standards. It drives our own roadmap. It is something that we see so many of you pull data into your own practices on. Please go and take the survey. It is the best way you can give back to the community. Data.finops.org. It's going to take you 20 minutes. You're going to get a free t-shirt if you do it. Don't do it for the free t-shirt. Do it for your contribution to the practice. The next summit that we have as a group that we're going to come back together like this is in February. We're not doing one in January because we're going to be crunching and cranking on the data for this and rolling it out at that February summit. So please go take this before the end of the year. We're looking to get 1,000 or more respondents as we have in past years, so we can give you really good data in February. With that, let's get what you all came here for, which is an update from the 3 big cloud conferences happen next, reInvent and Ignite, followed by back-to-back vendor showcases. Over to you, Rob Martin, to lead this section.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to try really hard not to say rig next for this whole section, because we've got some excellent updates from each of the major conferences from the different cloud providers. And so I am excited to be here to hear what were the big announcements that are going to impact the FinOps community. We've got a great group of folks who are going to share that with us. Let me introduce them real quickly. Yogendra Joshi from Google is the lead product manager for their billing cost experience group and focuses on the operate pillar. So GCP's cost experience group is really structured around the inform, optimize, operate model of FinOps and really tightly tied to us. Google, of course, was the premier sponsor of the FinOps Foundation and F2 Partner of the Year at last FinOps X. So excited to have Yogendra here for GCP. Anderson Oliveira is here from Farfetch. He is a senior FinOps product manager for Farfetch, based out of Portugal, and we'll be talking about our Azure, the Azure Ignite news that was here. And excited to have Bindu Sharma from Guidewire Software, who is an ambassador, who is a FinOps practitioner, and who is now a member of our Technical Advisory Council, former presenter at FinOps X in the past. So excited to have Bindu here, and along with Peter Chung from AWS. Peter is a senior solution architect with AWS out of New York, and author of the book AWS FinOps Simplified, which is also coming out very soon.
It's out. And hey, I gotta call out Anderson. There's something missing from your picture here. I'm trying to figure out what's wrong, but it looks like you're not FinOps certified. I'm not sure. We're gonna actually have to pull you out. No, I'm kidding. But we'd love to get your badge on here. So
we're gonna remedy that. That's not a big deal. Okay, so what I'd like to do is kind of go through each of the big events, and each of our presenters is going to tell us what was new. We'll have a little chat afterwards. Let's start off with Google Cloud Next 22. Yogendra, you want to start?
Awesome. Can you hear me? Thanks for teeing up. Let's roll. So I'm going to bring you 4 features today to start with, but I'm going to tell you a host of features how you can actually reach to. So I know we are running on a timer, so let's move on. The next slide. We are very excited to bring the tags to your standard as well as detailed cost exports. This has been #1 ask, and we released it early this year. This is going to make your job a lot easy to understand your costs and allocate your costs. I actually request all of you practitioners, both from the customer side as well as from the partner side, to go and select that checkbox to go to detailed export. You're going to start getting a lot more out of that, starting with tags, and we are going to talk about one more feature around that. Next slide. So you know that FlexCut, which is spend-based commitments, is our differentiator. Now, you need to also start getting recommendations along with the standard cuts. And that's what we have remedied when we are launching the FlexCut recommendations combined with the cut recommendations. And we are also coming out with configuration and personalization. And the start of it would be setting your targets as to how much commitment you want to cover to start with, and a lot more is going to come in. And we are actually running a private preview for this. So this is the first time a lot of you are hearing it. I'm going to link a form to the private preview here as well as on the GCP Slack channel. So watch out for that and enroll, and let's get engaged with us. The next one. Now, we all know that you can't draw your forecast or your estimation based on the list price. You have negotiated, hard negotiated a lot of the prices with us, and you also have made a lot of commitments. Now, these need to start reflecting in your estimation. So what we have done is we have released the estimation API as well as the console, the user interface, wherein you can go in and starting with the compute, and we are going to keep adding more features into this. We already have compute and storage, and we are targeting top 5 services to come soon, and there's a pathway forward. So you can start estimating at your rates and not just the standard rates for everyone. Next one. And I can keep talking about granular costs. This has been #1 ask. You can never have enough of granularity into your cost data. And we have listened to our customers. We already released GC granular cost last year. We introduced GK granular cost this year, which gives you data around namespaces, pods, clusters. And we also recently launched the granular cost support for Cloud Run and Cloud Functions. And stay tuned on this because a lot more services are going to start showing up detailed data and granular data. And again, I request all of you to start taking the detailed BQ exports. We know we have a lot of partners who are going to talk after this. I request all the partners to start leveraging all this data. We see a lot of the partners are still not using the detailed export and the detailed data. So please start taking it up. Next slide. And I know I can't run with all the awesome things that were announced in Next 22. I just stuck to the key 4 features for which means a lot for FinOps. But there are links where you can go and look at 123 new things that were announced around cloud. Many of them influence the FinOps journeys. And you can always keep a watch on the features that get released specifically for the practitioners, which is billing and CostX features through the release notes. And we'll also link a release note for you. So next slide. So before I hand over, I just wanted to tell you about the approach which Google Cloud has towards cost management and the practitioners. We take a 4-pronged approach. One, through my group, which is billing and cost experience, we take our responsibility really seriously to give you comprehensive data, cost optimization, and governance tools. Now, we also recognize that when the rubber meets the road, the customers need a lot of help, a lot of handholding. So we also have dedicated FinOps practice and FinOps experience lab, which is led by Eric Lam, wherein we actually help our customers through various kinds of workshops. Now, Google being Google, we also have Looker, which also has, sure, we also have the Looker dashboard, which you can take for multi-cloud. And obviously, we are closely aligned with FinOps organization, and we participate in almost every work group we can get our hands in and try to influence. So thanks a lot for having us, and thanks a lot for the award that you guys gave us, and we really cherish that. Thanks a lot.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, a lot of good conversation in the chat. I'm sure that you'll want to get involved in now afterwards as well. I'd like to also point out this is the second thing after Spot, that the introduction of tags now means that there's tags in all 3 of the major cloud platforms. So I'm very excited about that. Okay, next, moving on to Microsoft Azure Ignite. Anderson, you want to take it on?
Yes. Hey, hi everyone. My name is Anderson Oliveira, the FinOps Product Manager at Farfetch. I'm very happy to be here and have this opportunity to show what, in my opinion, are the most relevant topics related to FinOps and cloud cost management. A little bit of a Farfetch. We are a global luxury marketplace, and we are a cloud native company that has the vast majority of our workloads running in Azure. Related to Microsoft Ignite, happened in October 12 and 14th with a mix of virtual and in-person sessions, summing more than 900 of them. The one I will summarize here is called Optimize Your Investment in Azure and Maximize Business Value. It was a 15-minute long presentation that I will try to summarize here with you in less than 5 minutes. So wish me luck. On the next slide, all the announcements made by Microsoft on this session can be summarized in 3 topics: cost management, savings, and cost reduction. If you can go to the next slide as well. Maybe the second one, I guess. One more back, come back one more. Yes, right there. Thank you. Cost management and savings and maximizing the value of technology. In their words, on the Microsoft words that was said there, most of organization cost management, cost reduction, maximizing value of technology, investment consistently rank as top priorities. Me personally agree with this statement, and I assume that that's the same thing for most of us. So when it comes to cloud investment, a couple of key factors tend to prevent successful cloud adoption, which is loss of financial control and increasing of cost spent. In order to address these issues, without further ado, let me take a quick view of the latest announcements relevant to FinOps. So the first one is the Azure Saving Plans for Compute. What is that? Actually, it's at a high level, it's an easy and flexible way to save on compute services compared to pay-as-you-go prices. The savings plan contains lower prices on selected compute services when you commit to spend a fixed number of hours for 1 or 3 years. We at Farfetch, we use the reserved instance. That is now how Microsoft calls the commitment-based discount, to use the FinOps terminology. But the Azure savings plan for compute is different. For example, reservations, they are used for highly stable workloads that run consistently and where you have no expected changes to the machine series or regions. Reservations provide the greatest savings. The savings plans, on the other hand, are dynamic workloads where you need to run different size virtual machines or that frequently change data centers regions. Saving plans provide flexible benefits, application, and automatic optimizations. This is applicable for virtual machines, Azure dedicated host, container instances, Azure Premium Functions, and Azure App Services. All right. Some of them are, all of this that I mentioned, there are some exclusions here and there, so you might contact Microsoft for more details about that. Okay. Yes, thanks. Another interesting feature announced by Azure team, Microsoft Cost Management and the Azure Advisor. The Azure Advisor is a free digital assistant that provides real-time insight into existing deployment. What is new here is the Azure Advisor, and it's available since October. It enables you to identify which critical view recommendations will help boost your score the most, as well as your cost efficiency over time. A score of 100% is any category means all your usage follow Azure best practices in efficiency, security, reliability, operational excellences, and performance. This is the auto-scale. Probably everybody's aware of that, the capability that allows you to auto-scale. So with predictive auto-scale, you can leverage machine learning to anticipate when auto-scaling requires so that you can scale out occurs exactly when needed. The last slide I will just leave there on the screen with more details about each one of the announcements so that you can take a look at there and get more details. So thanks again and for the attention, and feel free to contact me anytime.
All right. Thanks, Anderson. Let's move on to AWS reInvent. So Bindu and Peter, you want to take it away?
Hi. Hello, everyone. Let's progress to next slide. Okay, this time around at reInvent, AWS, Amazon, they announced quite a bit of good hardware. Let's say on the Graviton 3E chip that was announced, that was used in most of these instance type that are listed. It offers more towards the maximum of 64 vCPU and memory up to 128 gigabytes. And if we look into that, the utilization for those are in EBS volume. We can see the high response time around for IO2 volume types. Now they are at par with the GP3. We have seen many companies leveraging the cost benefits of GP3. So with the IO2, using this chip that we can leverage. For these instance type, in the second bullet around the HPC, the high performance computing, they are using those chips, the R7i. This is the first time that Intel 4th generation Xeon chip is introduced. This can be used for financial trading, digital payments. The C7G and C6i, one is Graviton based, another one is Intel based. Again, any of for your memory intensive workloads. The last one is RDS optimized writes are enabled. So that will help again for high performance throughput kind of workload without new cost incurred. And at the top where it says the introduction of EC2 spot ready software, this is something I personally find it much beneficial, because now we can just leverage the spot instances with confidence, because Amazon has vetted the software products that can leverage the spot instances, and we all know that spot offers 90% more savings over on demand.
Thanks, Bindu. Yeah, so as you mentioned, a lot of the new instance types are great for like the new generations, typically have a lower cost or at least a better performance ratio. So definitely take a look at that. Lambda has a snap start runtime now. It virtually eliminates any cold start issues that you may have had. So in the past, right, if you keep a Lambda function idle, it takes a long time for it to kind of get warmed up again. So with the snap start, it basically creates a snapshot of the environment. So the cold start problem is virtually eliminated. For Compute Optimizer, it supports external metrics. So if you're using Datadog and Dynatrace and other external metrics aggregation tools, then Compute Optimizer has integration with those external metrics as well. If we go on to the next slide, so around storage and storage particularly, EFS has a one-day lifecycle management. So in addition to the existing 7-day, 14-day, 30-day, etc., you can use 1 day. So after maybe 1 day, if a file comes into an EFS share, and if users don't use it, you can automatically transition that to a colder storage, so that even after 1 day, so you can save on storage costs. For DocumentDB, with Elastic clusters, similar to other kind of databases at AWS, you can scale as you need, so you don't have to over provision, and you can really optimize on that elasticity of the cloud with DocumentDB Elastic clusters. For management in the next slide, so a couple things here. although it's not particularly related to cost savings, management is an important part of FinOps, right? So with delegated administrators, with AWS organizations, you can delegate admin access to lines of business owners. So rather than having a single like master user doing all that work, you can delegate admin privileges to other folks within your organization, which helps with the management portion. AWS config has proactive compliance. So with config, right, you would usually have some rule, right? You would have to react to certain things, but with config proactive, right, you could have those set beforehand. So you're not always doing in a reactive format. And then for AWS Control Tower, if you want to provision any accounts too, you can actually have accounts set up with, pre-provisioned like tagging strategies or, like only certain instance types for these accounts. Like you can have those built in before, so you can, you don't have to go in after the fact. You can provision those account templates beforehand before you actually launch the account.
Thanks,
Bindu
Peter.
and
Go ahead.
No, I was just passing over to you. Sorry.
Okay. Lots of automation around the cost intelligence or kudos dashboards, the API capabilities. We all need these kind of SDK around to automate our visualization. So that was a good announcement. The Event Bridge pipe, I have personally used it in my previous organization, the Event Bridge for automation. And with this announcement
we're right up on time. So what's the takeaway you want to leave? What's the biggest one for you?
I would say just start using QuickSight more. It has more capabilities that we can use for our reporting and for insights.
Cool.
Okay. Great. Thank you all for that. I know it's hard to get all the news into one little thing. I guess just as a couple of follow-up questions, I'd love your feedback on some of these. I think that there were I guess in my view, there were a lot of there seemed to be a lot of news out of all the different cloud providers this time around that were sort of little evolutionary tricks there, where they're trying to offer more of the cost data, more of the usage data in more interesting ways, tying it to observability data and using external external sources instead of CloudWatch, things like that. Is my impression there correct, or how do you see the announcements? How do you characterize the announcements from the different providers?
Yeah, I can go first. So practitioners are really excited about granular costs and they want more. They just want more and more. And that's the theme for everyone. Practitioners are also getting a lot of benefits out of recommendations. So yeah, we were totally excited for it.
Yeah, I can talk about a little bit about Azure. What I like about these features is that they will integrate the already existing APIs that they provide that. So those things can be seen from the control panel that they offer from the, let's say, the home screen. But we quite not use that, as we use the APIs in order to do some automations on our side, on our homegrown tools. And all of this already integrates the existing APIs, which is great, that it will not break anything on our side. At the same time that we can combine with our internal telemetry data in order to produce additional information to our internal clients. So yeah, that would be my take on that.
Yeah, I think not to pitch too hard, but we had a working group that has been working for a while on an open billing standard for FinOps data, which is kind of carrying on from here. So I think that there was interesting news from all three of the big events from that perspective. I think in trying to get to a point where we can coordinate and ingest and normalize that data to use the FinOps capability words for that. Any big things that we wanted to see or that we expected to see out of the big announcements that we didn't see from any of your perspectives? Bindu, do you have anything that you were missing from reInvent? I think you're muted.
I would say about sustainability, we were hoping they'll announce more improvements toward the tool, towards the pledge was repeated. So that's a good thing to know that they are going to stick to their promise about renewable by 2025 and by 2040 net zero. But more we were expecting for sustainability that was missing.
I'll just second that for Mark Butcher automatically. You got anything from Google that you wanted to see announced that wasn't?
No, we work hand in hand. So we have worked hard towards the announcements, and we are really excited for the next year.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I understand that Ignite is supposed to tell about new things that are coming. But one thing that I wanted to hear more is that I know for a fact from other studies that Microsoft plans to change the API that brings the billing data, that sends out billing data. So, and that seems to be a huge change. Would like to hear a little bit more of that, but probably Ignite was not the right forum for more information about this.
Yeah, that's a great call out, and I think that was some I was hoping for a bigger announcement around the cost intelligence dashboards or cloud intelligence dashboards as a product there too. I think coming together with that theme of making this cost data more available. All right, I thank all of you for your input, and I'll hand it back to JR to move on.
Thank you, everybody. We're going to dive right into the vendor showcases. You're going to see a lot of these folks in there. Shout out to our newest member who just joined, Kyndryl. We're going to hear from them, not on this call, but a future one. They joined too late to join it as well. And then, of course, all the fantastic growing list of general members in the foundation who are providing tooling services to the community. So, Steve, why don't you take us through this? And I want to let everybody know also, I have a second screen here running with a timer that we're going to run through each of those. And I'm going to spotlight it when you have 60 seconds left so you know when to wrap up. And Steve's going to walk us through this format here.
Hey, everyone. Just a reminder of code of conduct. Be respectful to everyone. Thank you to all the speakers for hustling straight after reInvent, getting all their presentations together. But please keep the time. JR is going to be bad cop and shout out when it is time. Again, please don't mention anything that's not public information. Again, keep that to private conversations, and let's keep the conversation going on Slack with the tools and services channel. Okay, we like to shake things up for the showcase. This time we're going to be aligning to FinOps challenges, the top 6 challenges around Premier presentations. Then we're going to break out into 3 different breakouts where you can kind of dive into the particular challenge you're looking for around the other partners as well, because we have so many to cover today. I think we've got about 40. Which is going to be great. So moving on quickly, we're going to actually dive into the first challenge. I'm actually going to pass to Vaz to give us a slight kind of detail about this challenge. Are you there, Vaz?
Yeah, thanks, Steve. Just to tee things up for the folks that are presenting about this challenge. So essentially, we, through the state of FinOps and talking to the community, as Steve mentioned, we're just trying to surface the top challenges. This challenge is really about getting information to engineers so they can supplement and enhance the practices that they're already doing, right? So part of engineers' daily practice is to take into account efficiency, redundancy, resiliency, security. And now we're saying, let's get data into the path of engineers so that they can tackle FinOps and finance optimization as well. So with that, I'll turn it over to SADA and all-around good guy, Rich Hoyer. Rich, are you on the line?
Hey, everybody. Rich Hoyer, Director of Customer FinOps here at SADA. I'm also a very proud member of the governing board of the foundation. SADA is essentially a GCP reseller, but we also have a very robust FinOps practice where we do consulting with clients to help them work through their challenges, as well as a whole bunch of other consulting we do around the technical side of GCP, but we're multi-cloud as it relates to FinOps. Next slide, please. This is the way we think about FinOps as it relates to getting engineers to take action. What we do and what we recommend you do is however you want to bucket the different capabilities within the organization. Essentially, what we focus on is building these capabilities within our clients within their FinOps practices. And so the way that we like to influence our clients is that they build obviously a FinOps team of practitioners, and we up-level them along each of these capabilities. And of course, as we all know, at some point, as your capabilities in this grows, you're going to need to be able to interact with the engineers, the technical side, in order to influence them in some manner. So, excuse me, getting over a cold. So what we have found is really, really, really important in doing this, in getting engagement of the technical side, first of all, is how the FinOps team gets presented. So in building these capabilities, there is a sort of a decision point that you can make in setting up your team as far as how it's presented to the wider organization. And our very strong conviction is that the right way to do this, which feeds into getting engineers to take action, is to position this team as a resource that's there to help the technical teams achieve their goal. So specifically, if you're working on the visibility and reporting part of this, for example, then what you want to do is collaborate with those technical teams in a way that they understand that the horse trade is, if they help you, for example, get tagging and labeling coverages higher, then you can help them get better visibility into their spend in the form of better reporting or views within their cloud management tooling, for example. So you think about it as, we're a resource, we are going to ask the technical teams for things at times, but we always do it in the context of saying, here's how we can also be a benefit to you in exchange for that. Operating efficiency, of course, is one of the main ones where that's the most common context of people thinking about, where they might need to interact with teams and influence them. And again, what we found here is a subtle twist in language is enormously important in getting engineers to engage with you and take action. And that subtle twist is not making recommendations. In other words, the word should be banned, no pun intended. You don't come to them and say, you should terminate these unattached storage. Rather, you ask the question, do you think we could? Is there a reason why we could not? And we've found that puts them very much on the less chance of them feeling defensive and more chance of them engaging with you in order to achieve that goal. And the next slide, whenever possible, try to collaborate with them in executing things. That's it.
Thank
Nailed
you.
the timing. Thank you.
Right, moving on, we have Michael from Virtasant. You there, Michael?
Hi, everyone. Michael Kearns with Virtasant. You can go to the next slide.
Let's start the timer.
Yep, there we go. So, what we find is, why don't engineers take action, right? It's a big problem. And they're all good reasons, right? Priorities, complexity, risk, like all of this stuff is good. It's not that they don't care, or they don't want to do it, or it's not their problem. It's just, there's a lot of good reasons why engineers don't take action. And, our solution really focuses on how do you change this? Like, how do you enable them? How do you put them in a position to take action? Next slide. And the way we found to do that is that it's more than like, you're spending too much money, or your spend is increased, or you've got like, here's a bunch of recommendations. We don't know if they make sense for you or not, but like, here they are, right? There's no context, there's no anything. And what we found is that you need more than just kind of basic viz and coarse grained generic recommendations. It takes a system, it takes a process, right? It takes collaboration. You want to separate, and this is, I think, one of the biggest problems is separate signal from noise, right? There's just so much information, and just like anything else, if you're overwhelmed with information, you just stop paying attention, right? So it's really critical to say, these are like, you could do 1,000 things. Here are the 10 that will drive the most value and are most relevant to you. Celebrate success. I think that's one of the things that, there's a lot of communication around, you're spending too much money, you're wasting money, but like, what about when people do take action, like celebrating that, providing accountability. So you're doing things, how much have you saved? Who's done a lot? Who's done a little? And then establish clear feedback loops, right? Like, so make people feel like and know that they're being heard. Because I think a lot of it is just like, you're spending too much money, here are recommendations, but there's no good feedback loops to say, these aren't relevant for me to change them, right? So good feedback loops. So we think it's a system. Next. And so what do? what we've come up with is a holistic outcome-based solution that is modular and adjusts to a company's needs, right? Because some people, you may have a Viz tool, you may use a third party, you may like cloud provider tools, you may build your own. There might be areas where you're strong, areas where you're weak. And so what we found is it's a holistic problem that requires a holistic solution. So what we do is we actually combined modular IP and building blocks of people, process, and technology that you can assemble in a way that makes sense to your organization. And that's from holistic program, establishing clear goals and metrics, detailed recommendations, workflow, feedback loops, tuning, and I think most importantly, heavy engagement and support from actual cloud experts. So not kind of salespeople or account people, but like people who actually have been in the shoes of the engineers and can talk engineer to engineer and have meaningful conversations, both about what makes sense to do, but also what doesn't make sense to do. And if you're going to do something, how do you do it? And so for us, it's not a question of we're going to put in a program or give you some technology. It's like a holistic solution that makes sense to you or for you. Next slide. And for us, and this is the pitch part of this whole thing is, we're confident that we can drive results. And our model is unique in that if you don't save money, you don't pay. So we give you something that's holistic, that's modular, tailored to you, and it's guaranteed. So, we have the capabilities to measure exact ROI on what you do. And, if you don't see the value, you don't pay. And the reason we can do that is because we know through experience that, we can drive value for any organization. If you have any questions, feel free to ping any member of our team on FinOps Slack. And JR, I'm going to prevent you from having to tell me I'm out of time because I've got 5 seconds left.
Appreciate that.
Thank you very much, Michael.
Yeah.
Okay, we're moving on quickly to the next one. It's going to be Casper from Nordcloud.
Hello. Yes, I am, of course.
Fantastic. Take it away.
Actually, we skipped like one slide, but I will just that doesn't really matter because I've started with one kind of the thesis statement. So why does not? So do developers care about doing the savings? And actually, I want to just to give you some small doubts that maybe they don't always do. And I want to just show you my point of view because I was on the other side before I found out what's FinOps and how you can optimize your workloads. And I was dealing with the things that we can see. So there is a hell lot of money to save, and someone is doing huge spendings. And come on, if we take a look at the number of actions, how many actions we have to take to optimize everything, it is a tough thing to do. And how I, as a developer, as the cloud engineer, can be motivated to do that. Because the most thing I care about is how my application performs. And there is a simple solution we found with Nordcloud, with Clarity, and that's also like the other way how we want to emphasize and encourage all the engineers in the way how they can start saving money. And let's go to the next slide. And now the thing is a little bit hidden here in the top right corner, which is telling me that I have some resource, and now I know how much money I will pay for that. That's very obvious, very straightforward. But I also have the information how much carbon dioxide it is generating, and like we all know that this is harmful for the environment, and I can start saving. I can stop being harmful for the environment. So get this additional motivation to that how the things can be done, what I should do to make the things right. But there is one small problem about it. So it says that this particular database is generating 4 kilograms of CO2 during the whole month. But what does it mean, 4 kilograms of CO2? Is it a lot or maybe not? So let's move to the next slide, and let's take a look at that, what we can see here. So there is one particular thing that we as humans are perfect. So comparing things, then 4 kilograms, if you have to carry the bag of the potatoes, then 4 kilograms is relatively heavy bag, but CO2 is really hard to measure. But if you can visualize what you can do with this energy, so you can drive 16 kilometers by your electric car or charge 500 smartphones, that's the perfect metric. And that's what started motivating the developers, the cloud engineers to start optimizing their workloads. So 500 charged smartphone. Everyone, I'm more than sure that everyone here today charges his smartphone each and every day. So you can do it for almost 2 years just by optimizing your one simple database, and it grows at scale. So you can start saving money, start optimizing your workloads, and also save your planet. So just an additional motivator to make sure that engineers are gonna take more and more action. And actually, I have 30 seconds left, but that was it. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you on the timing. So moving on to organizational adoption of FinOps. Baz, do you want to give some more details on that challenge?
Yeah, for sure. So everyone knows the practice of FinOps is more than just technology solutions or checklists you hand to your teams. At its core, FinOps is a cultural movement. Leadership support isn't helpful, it is essential. So building capabilities for things like winning over detractors, creating metrics to prove value, and building enablement strategies are key. So I'd like to introduce our first presenter here from SoftwareONE, Parker. Yeah, hey, Parker.
Hey, everybody, I'm Parker Nancolis. I'm a consultant at SoftwareONE. And yeah, I'm going to talk about how one of the ways SoftwareONE tackles this challenge of organizational adoption. So I actually have personal experience with this as a practitioner. I just came from an organization where I helped set up the FinOps practice. And it took us over a year from our first attempt until when we actually had an approved team in place. And a lot of you can probably relate to this, but we had multiple different people in the organization on multiple different teams doing multiple different FinOps things, but none of them were working together. Some of them were duplicating efforts. And that's, as we know, one of the big reasons FinOps is a challenge, is it because it requires that collaboration between separate teams that haven't always had to collaborate in the past. You can go to the next slide. So one of the ways what we do at SoftwareONE is we break those habits right from the beginning. So all of our engagements start with what we call a diagnostic session. And what we do is we get all of the different personas in a room at the same time or virtually. And we do go over the FinOps framework and principles at a high level, but the focus of that session is on a series of interactive questions on different cloud topics. So we ask all of the participants different yes or no questions, simple yes or no questions that they answer in real time. And this helps us not only assess the organization's maturity in each category, but it also helps point out where the different personas aren't aligned, because we have them all answer in real time. You can see the answers come up. And so how often do you think companies are not aligned in their answers? Could you go to the next slide, JR? 55%, that's been our experience. 55% of the questions over all of the companies we've done this with, more than 2 people have disagreed with the rest of the group on those simple yes or no questions. And those differences always lead to conversations between the different personas, often conversations that haven't happened before. People are learning things they didn't know. You have people already saying things like, oh, I didn't know you were doing that. We should set up some time after this to talk about that. They're already leaving with next steps, and we haven't even given them any recommendations. So it's really cool. And that's the power of collaboration. Just by getting those people together in a room and starting the discussion in that collaborative way, they already start talking about how to fix things. Awareness really is the first step in change and adoption. And that's what this session does, is it brings that awareness to FinOps, what can be accomplished with FinOps, and where the organization has room for improvement. Can you go to the next slide? So at the end of all that, we do leave companies with a summary of their or their FinOps maturity and organizational alignment scores, as well as recommendations for improving their score in each area. But what's really cool is at this point, the conversation's been started. The people are already starting to collaborate with each other, and the next steps are now clear. And that makes it from that point much easier to move forward and start making actual progress. So that's one of the big ways we help with it. There's obviously a lot more that I can go over in 4 minutes, but we've got plenty of resources online, including this ebook, The 5 C's of FinOps, if you want to go check those out and get any more information.
Thank you, Parker. That's great. And moving on from HCLTech, we have Raghav. Are you ready?
Thanks, Steve.
Take it away.
Great. So, of course, I've heard a lot of people. I've heard Parker talking about the very same topic, but I'd like to take a step back and say, when we talk about any client at HCL, of course, servicing them, there are two types of clients or enterprises. One that have already moved to the cloud, the others which are on the process of moving to the cloud or migration. So for us to understand the challenges, clients generally feel that, what do I do when I'm in the cloud? Why is my cost going to increase? So coming to that part, we have a three-step approach here. Of course, the first one talks about the ways of working of how we do it at HCL and service different clients. The first is the FinOps parameters, a 6-step approach starting from the FinOps maturity, which talks about the cost and maturity assessment, where we have a functional parameters and the technical parameters, all of which have points associated to them. And then we try and classify where the client is actually right now, whether in the beginner stage or the intermediate stage or the advanced stage. And wherever the client be, for example, if it's an intermediate stage, then we're going to suggest the client what to do in order to move to the next step. In the same way, we have evaluate and define, the very first one, where we talk about defining thresholds and workloads and create workflows for them. Track would help in wastage removal, or of course a GUI custom dashboard. Smart insights, from security best practices to getting operational insights to usability and performance. Implement, where we talk about tagging strategy, like we discussed right now in the earlier sessions as well. How do we implement a perfect tagging strategy? Tag sanitization, chargeback and showback, which are of utmost importance to almost every enterprise that is there. From an optimized standpoint, we talk about how do we talk about recommendations, purchasing recommendations. What's the key point right there? What is the percentage that an Aurea should be used at? So all of those technical points. The second part of the story talks about the practitioner's mindset. Since HCLTech is an FSP and FCSP as well, we have the dedicated practitioner dedicated to all accounts right there, who's going to do regular assessments of the environment, who's going to use best practices, be in line with FinOps.org, talk about inform, optimize, and govern, inform, optimize, and operate. Keeping that in mind, talk to the operations team, get the results from them. There's a lot of interaction between all the teams, the FinOps team and the operations team. Talk to the client, discuss with them, get out recommendations, not only about providing recommendations, but focusing on realization. I think that's the key point and the key takeaway. And then obviously provide a monthly FinOps report, which talks about a 50,000 feet overview, then getting down to service lines, so that there is a granular a visibility to the environment. And that's what the unit cost economics talks about. Coming to the last part of the story, we have the reporting and analytics portfolio, where we have 6 different modules. So it's interlinked. It also talks about the inform, optimize, and operate phase as per FinOps.org. And it helps provide a GUI and a visibility to the client. So all 3 things go hand in hand right there. And I'm going to save about a minute right there, JR. If there are any questions, please feel free to reach out. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Moving on to the next challenge, enabling automation. Vaz, should we dig into this one?
Leveraging automation, the challenge here is really about not what you can automate, but identifying what you should automate and the value that automation brings. So without further ado, I'll bring out the next presenter, which is Deloitte and Nick.
Yeah, I think it's actually Jared.
Oh, thank you, Steve. Team, it's a last minute change on our part. I appreciate everyone flexing. So thank you all for the time, Jared, manager out of Deloitte practice. And before we even jump in, we're to start with some of the challenges we've noticed with our clients of what prevents FinOps automation across a broad range of experiences. I think the first one is limited buy-in from consuming application teams. As we talked earlier, there are competing priorities that often prevent them or make it appear as disruptive to their work. The second being, application team priorities of what are the things that they're caring about, whether it be availability of their service or new functionality over waste reduction. Third, being lack of collaboration between different teams, and thereby sometimes that trust prevents automation from being enabled. And then lastly, just limited empowerment. I think with cloud decentralization, we know it does a lot of great good and empower engineers, but often without strong cross-organizational leadership support, our central offerings may have limited adoption success. So go to the next slide, please. With those 4 challenges grounding our discussion, I wanted to bring up an example of one of our recent clients where we helped them automate their annual cost attestation process. And so they asked us to come in and take the manual workflow there of those 4 steps of, we look at identifying spend annually for a cloud application, taking that and sharing it and validating it with the application owners, and then baselining that spend for next year. So they wanted us to come in, document, detail that, and then enable the outcomes of improving engagement and collaboration between the app and FinOps teams, reduce the cycle time, so take it down from a quarter to a month, and then make clear the spend that each application or technology portfolio and org was doing, and what are the actionable cost savings for the next year. So as we did that, we learned quite a few key lessons. And can we go to the next slide, please? And so with that, these are the takeaways that I want you guys to leave in the 4 minutes we have this morning and this afternoon is one, when you look at anything that you're doing, whether it be on the visibility side, like that process was, or the optimization side, clearly define the objective and outcome. This is clear on building out what you're actually going to automate and getting buy-in and support from stakeholders at all levels of the organization. And then 2, using those outcomes and objectives you've clearly defined that you want to achieve, go define the process, meaning what are the things I need to feed into my list of activities that I'm going to do? What are those activities across the entire cycle of my goal, and what are the outputs? And make clear like that all achieves our objective. And then going from that, actually build out a business case. And that's the fancy word. Really what I mean there is, what is the cost to execute this automation? And then what's the benefit? So then I can calculate, hey, it's a 3-month or a 4-month or a 6-month or a year payback period, and we will get benefits based on what we're going to deliver. And then lastly, it's implement iteratively. So whether it be, through sprints, through quarters, through program increments, or month by month, start small, deliver, and then grow so that you can continue to deliver success, build trust and rapport, and then start approaching bigger and bigger automation targets or scopes. So there are our 4 key lessons, enabling that automation for one of our client examples there with annual cost attestation. I think they apply in our experience, whether we're automating any other parts of the FinOps lifecycle. And in the last 33 seconds we have here, a couple other key callouts, right? As we look to automation, it's helpful there in the forecasting, anomaly detection. It can shift left with our developers and giving them cost optimized or already optimized architecture deployment patterns, and then embed key KPIs within your development lifecycle. So in the last 10 seconds we have, would appreciate reaching out if you guys have any questions to myself, Nikhil, and Ram. Our contact is there on the page or through the Slack FinOps channel. Thanks, JR.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks for jumping in as well at the last minute. Moving on to Joanne from Spot by NetApp. Are you ready?
I am. Hello, everyone. I'm Joanne Godfrey, Product Marketing for Spot by NetApp. Next slide, please. So let's just start with why automation in the context of FinOps is essential. So first and foremost, it's a way to drive enhanced business productivity while continuously optimizing cloud spend and governance. It also helps achieve operational excellence so that you can meet SLAs and business performance goals. Obviously, automation saves time while increasing staff productivity, as well as reducing the risk of human error. And also, automation also helps support the principle of making FinOps transparent and part of day-to-day processes. But automation is, in and of itself, it's not the end in itself. Automation is for a purpose, and that is optimization. Optimizing costs, optimizing infrastructure, optimizing governance, and the underlying processes that drive FinOps. And it's all to deliver maximum business value. It also doesn't work in isolation. You need visibility and policies to drive effective automation. And that is collectively what the Spot by NetApp FinOps portfolio provides. Next slide, please. So we start with visibility. To drive meaningful FinOps processes and automation, you need to turn raw data into actionable insights that allow all the different FinOps stakeholders to get on the same page about exactly how and where resources are being used, the cost of those resources, and the impact on the business. So we've done a lot of work to make cloud data useful, meaningful, and consistent, to provide a single source of truth where, for example, application teams can get the visibility in a way that aligns to their applications and the resources that use them. The finance teams can get the business metrics that they need to analyze costs and profit margins, and the DevOps teams can get the visibility they need to efficiently configure their infrastructure to meet SLAs and budgets. Governance is obviously a critical component for effective implementation of FinOps too. You need policies for governing and prioritizing cloud spend and resources aligned to SLAs and business objectives. So utilizing the visibility we just gained, Spot helps organizations puts policies in place that are visible and transparent and consistent and repeatable across the different groups and different parts of the organization, so that it's not just a bunch of engineers or finance people trying to do their best without any kind of framework. Then, of course, automating day-to-day operations. There are many FinOps processes that you can dynamically automate around provisioning resources, cost management, and reporting that remove burden from already overburdened teams. For example, Spot can take a set of rules, and using analytics and AI and ML, it will continuously apply those rules to continuously apply your FinOps policies consistently, even as applications and infrastructure evolves. We've all seen the research and statistics that discuss how underutilized or wasted resources are a huge cost to organizations. So being able to automatically allocate those resources just in time to meet SLAs is really a tremendous benefit to organizations that they can gain with Spot. And to complete the cycle, the goal of visibility and governance and automation is to optimize. When talking with customers, we often find that they start thinking about optimization when they suddenly find out that their actual costs don't align with their budget. So Spot continuously, intelligently, and automatically optimizes your cloud purchasing strategies in alignment with your cloud capacity and availability needs, which makes these strategies much more effective and strategic for the business. So ultimately, combining visibility, governance, automation, and optimization, Spot helps organizations operationalize FinOps across the organization to drive businesses forward.
Thank you, Joanne. I think our timer broke there, JR, on the screen. Moving on to AJ from IBM Turbonomic.
Yep. Hello. All right. Cool. So the key to Turbonomic is essentially, if all your organization wants to do is optimize costs, save costs, get control of how you're spending in the cloud, then what happens a lot with organizations, we say to them, just scale down everything you have, shut off half your workloads. If you really just want to save money, turn everything off, scale it down, and pat yourself in the back and say you save money. But you can't do that. Organizations can't do that because the purpose of IT is to provide applications with resources, to make sure that the applications run and perform the way that they need to support the business, to support business objectives. And the key to safely reducing costs, safely optimizing costs in the cloud is to have automation in place that can protect you from performance problems as they occur. So if you could build out this slide, please. So, So applications are constantly changing from a demand perspective. If you want to maximize your cloud cost optimization, you have to look at what applications need from a continuous resourcing perspective to be able to drive the best decisions throughout the entire stack. If you aren't aware of what applications need, then what you're forced to do is over allocate, because you have to protect yourself from performance outages. You know, it's much more critical to a business if their application gets slow. I mean, some studies say that even a second of slowness to a large organization can cost hundreds of thousands of dollars in revenue impact. So, you know, what Turbonomic is able to do is continuously analyze as much of the environment as you give it. You know, you don't need to have everything that's on the screen here. We'll take as much of the environment as we can. And we generate automatable decisions to reconfigure the environment to make sure that everything gets the resources it needs to perform at the lowest possible cost continuously, even as the environment continues to change. All right, next slide, please. All right. So the problem is that IT is the only industry today that is designed to fail. Systems today are set up so that you collect as much data as possible. You set up a whole bunch of policies and thresholds around that data, and you wait for the thresholds to be violated or for a predictive algorithm to predict that a threshold will be violated. And you get everyone together in a war room, you figure it out, and you kick off some sort of process automation to resolve that issue, or you manually go and fix the issue yourself, only to restart the process all over again. And when that happens, you risk outages, you risk performance degradation, you risk impact to your business. The issue here is this is a solved problem. There are technologies everywhere in our society that match supply to demand, what people need to what's available. And that is what Turbonomic does with our solution. If you go to the next slide, please. So what we do is we collect application data, or we collect as much data as we can. Even if you give us the hypervisor cloud provider, we support all major cloud providers, all instantiations and types of Kubernetes environments, and we connect all that data together and watch what the application needs and the SLOs of that application, and we use that to drive discount-aware optimization decisions, because it's not just a matter of matching what the applications need from a performance perspective. If you're not aware of the constraints, the business constraints, availability constraints, or any other constraints in an environment, it's impossible to generate truly automatable decisions. By being aware of exactly what the right discount coverage is, Turbonomic can make decisions smart enough to know, hey, even if this thing's running at 10% utilization, don't scale it down because it's on a reserved instance, and it shouldn't be, it would be more expensive if you scale it down.
Moving on to Flexera and Jeremy.
Good day, everyone. Hopefully you can hear me. My name's Jeremy Chaplin from Flexera. I'm also here to talk about enabling automation within your organization. For those of you that don't know Flexera, as well as providing cloud cost optimization capabilities, we also provide solutions from our SaaS-hosted FlexeraONE platform for IT asset management, IT visibility, and that can be software license optimization, SaaS management as well. And it's important, of course, that all of these kind of capabilities are underpinned by automation. And you'll see here the automation engine that sits across the bottom of these modules here. That enables us to support kind of more complex combined use cases both across IT asset management and cloud financial management, such as applying hybrid use benefit or bring your own licensing in Azure, if you will, with the context of your entitlements in the IT asset management space. Next slide, please. Focusing, of course, today on the kind of FinOps discipline and the life cycle here, we're aware, of course, of the FinOps domain of cloud usage optimization and specifically the capabilities of workload management and automation, where we're focusing on the start and stop of workloads and, you know, the elasticity of your resources in order to, you know, automate that. We see it as being important that we also address the other parts of the life cycle, and I think other vendors have touched on this as well. So automating the ingestion and the normalization of the data, you know, that's relevant for your informed stage and your FinOps analysis, automating the allocation and the shared allocation, leading to budgeting and forecasting, and of course, automation of things like anomaly detection is really important because you can't do these things at scale. And then in the optimization phase, of course, people have come to accept that the production of both rate and usage recommendations is automated. And you expect alerts, I guess, on RI expiry or RI underutilization. But we take it one step further in that operate phase where those recommendations that are produced can be automated, either fully automatic if it's appropriate to do so, maybe in non-production environments, or via a workflow approval process, or even going into the platform and actually taking action there. But we can also semi-automate that and deliver those recommendations into tools and processes that you have already in place, raising a change ticket, logging a JIRA, you know, getting the right information to the right people. Next slide, please. So that underpinning that automation engine is actually an open source policy catalog. And that's really critical, again, to enabling teams and adopting automation, is to be transparent about what this thing is doing and how it's doing it. It also means that you can take any one of the 150 or so out of the box policies that we have here and adjust them and make them your own, add additional business context as needed. But what you'll see here is actually of the 150 that we have, kind of best practices that we've set out already, over half of them already support inbuilt remediation. And they, of course, cover different use cases, not just around cost, but operational security governance use cases as well. Next slide, please. And then finally, as I said, the architecture here is open source. And so you can use our policy engine to ingest data from, of course, Flexera modules, cloud services, but really any API-enabled system, process that data, can apply conditions to it in the policy engine, and then take action, whether that's workflows and approvals, or really action on any other API-enabled system. And that really enables you to, accelerate your automation journey. Thank you.
Perfectly timed, Jeremy. Thank you very much. Moving on to Aurea Cloudfix, Miguel.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So my name is Miguel Burkini. I'm with Aurea Cloudfix, and I wanted to talk about our journey around automation and what we saw you should automate, what automation means to us, and the value we saw from automation in 4 minutes or less. So one of the things we do is, we look at all the different cost optimization strategies out there. And we all know that we need to support multiple strategies and approaches towards saving money. But we also have to look a little bit deeper. Visualization tools are great for cost allocation and helping us with budgeting and forecast. We have other tools to help us find those big ticket items and save money. But we have to start looking at how we address these savings opportunities. And what we saw is that there's two types. There's the ones that require human intervention or decision-making. This is because, it's critical to the workload. It's critical to the SLA impacts that those changes might have. There's also a secondary one where it doesn't require human intervention, where it doesn't require human decision-making. And that's where we saw an opportunity to bridge the gap, to really focus in on the safe, easy automations that we can provide and save money at the same time. We found this across our customers where they had visualization tools, they had dedicated cost optimization teams, and we're still able to save about $1 million on these simple and safe automations. If you go to the next slide, what automation means to us is really looking for what is these kind of opportunities or recommendations that do not require the human element. That's what we call the Roomba for AWS savings. We're picking up the small, easy, safe recommendations. To do this, you have to find those. We have to go look at all the different AWS advisories and blog posts to figure out which ones are easy and safe, and again, do not require those human decision-making. The next thing we do is we create automation. To us, automation breaks down into two steps. One is the finder, and the second one is the fixer. Now, the finder is the ability to go and scan all your accounts to be able to go and look at what opportunities or recommendations exist. This is something we do across our 30,000 plus accounts in our AWS environment, so it scales. But the second thing is the most kind of differentiating one is we actually fix them. You want to be able to find, to fix, not just find all the different opportunities that you have out there. And we do this in a way without installing any code or any agent or having any elevated permission. We follow AWS best practice of a least privilege model. If you click to build a slide, you'll see that the results are pretty interesting. Because of automation, because you're looking at the simple ones, you have compounding savings of 15 to 60% per service, and they add up. You have improved performance, and then you stick to that better hygiene of a well-architected framework, as well as best practices around your latest and greatest services. And if you go to the next slide, the value that you get out of this is pretty daunting. We go look at kind of what automation did for us. And one of the biggest things that we saw was the time to value. It was fast, it was easy, and it was quick. We didn't have to take our cloud architects off different products or innovation to go and do this. We saw 1 week time to value, and it's pretty easy because it's automated. You have to automate the onboarding. It takes 15 minutes. You have to automate the finding. What are the recommendations? And you have to automate the fixing. How do you actually implement the opportunities to realize the savings immediately? We saw this in a matter of weeks, and most of our customers take about 50% of the fixtures in a matter of 2 weeks. And you repeat the cycle, week over week, month over month. You want to make sure you're going through all those automations to find that compounding savings through automation. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Moving on to Kyndryl and Catherine and Srini.
Hey everyone, thanks for having us. So we're from Kyndryl. My name's Catherine. I'm the Senior Product Manager for Kyndryl FinOps, and I'm here with Srini, our Principal Architect for Modern Ops. So first of all, quickly, Kyndryl, if you don't know, we are a one-year young company, previously IBM. We just completed our spin-off and became an independent public company of last year. We bring over 30 years of operational heritage, and we modernize and manage the world's mission-critical systems and services. Next, please. When talking with our customers, we often hear that they overspend on cloud, approximately 20%, and also with difficulty to forecast their spend. So the way that we're helping our clients is through our FinOps solution. Next, please. The Kyndryl FinOps solution is designed with the flexibility to meet you where you are on your journey to cloud, and as well as the adoption to FinOps. So Kyndryl can work with you during advice. We can help you identify your current state of FinOps maturity, where you need to be and how to get there. And then we implement, we deploy the systems and adopt FinOps processes and best practices into your enterprise. And most importantly, we continue to improve and operate. So once the FinOps model is defined and adopted, we continue to monitor and optimize, ensuring that your organization is always getting the maximum value as you scale. So now I'm going to actually let Srini go to talk about a specific solution to a specific problem from our client, Brazil Foods, where we closely worked with them on achieving visibility of their costs through automation.
Thank you, Catherine. Hi, everyone. My name is Srini. So I'm going to quote a real-world client example, how we help them overcome their FinOps challenge, enabling the automation. BRF Brazil Foods is the world's largest, one of the world's largest food company. Their IT infrastructure spread across IBM Cloud, Azure, public clouds, and a bunch of private clouds using VMware technology across multiple data centers. Their key challenge was getting a visibility across their hybrid cloud IT estate while they were actually acquiring more companies across the world. So on the other side, they were actually modernizing their applications, and more and our clouds are getting into cloud. So situation was complex. The customer was looking at confidence and clarity in their hybrid cloud spend. So what did we do? So we actually deployed a FinOps squad and basically leveraged our advise, implement, operate approach. We conducted a design thinking workshop. We did with the customer, understood their pain points, mapped use cases, and finally we built an automated solution for their hybrid cloud, multi-cloud, private cloud estate. So what did we do? So we basically defined the generic provider data, a normalized schema, which will basically address both the private cloud data and public cloud data. We built a data ingestion service using extract, transform, load approach to automate the data ingestion across public and private cloud data. We built a correlation engine to kind of map the assets to the utilization and the metadata. And we basically applied the fully loaded cost using the designed cost model based on their private cloud TCO. And finally, we applied the attribution and the business costs using the business context, using the tagging strategy. At the end of the day, we provided them a single pane of glass view of on the cost and asset management dashboards, the reporting capabilities using GraphQL. Client used this solution to monitor almost $2 million cloud spend every month, and they claimed that they were able to reduce 85% of their lead time.
Sorry to interrupt, your time is up. Thank you both.
And that's the price of what we did.
Moving on to our next challenge. It's going to be reducing waste and unused resources. Baz, do you want to give us a quick intro to this?
Yeah, for sure, Steve. So no surprise, everybody wants to minimize unnecessary cloud usage. All waste, no matter how small, is important for us to track and reduce. But this challenge is really about not just identifying waste, but also about building the capability to determine the opportunity versus effort when tackling waste reduction. And with that, I'll turn it over to our first presenter, VMware. Jared, are you on the line?
I am, thank you. All right, so thanks everybody. Jared from CloudHealth here. CloudHealth, if you don't know, at its core is a cloud management tool that can help you optimize your resources, do your financial management, provide security insights, and really establish a set of governance rules across your FinOps organization. So we're going to walk through a story today about identifying waste, reducing that waste, and then communicating the value of the work that we've been doing. So you can imagine with the sprawl of resources today in the public cloud landscape, doing this in a manual intervention way is just not going to scale. So what CloudHealth has done is identified a set of monitoring policies that will continuously scan your public cloud environment and come up with opportunities to right size, to reduce, to recommend purchase savings plans and other formats in terms of resource optimization as a way of identifying waste, carbon footprint emissions as a way of reducing green ops waste, and then making cost savings to improve financial waste. So here we can see we have a policy that has identified EC2 instances that are under provisioned, right? So we have a larger instance that we would expect to have, and we can see we can apply these policy blocks on different subsets of our public cloud resources. So if you go to the next slide. So after we've identified sets of resources that are eligible for waste reduction, the next step is how do we help you orchestrate the reduction of those resources? So we have a few policies in place. One of these is turn the lights off. You can imagine I have an engineering group who runs dev, test, and prod environments. My engineers aren't working every day of the week. They're not working all hours of the day, at least in dev. So we can set policies that have different conditions on time horizons and other factors to effectively shut down resources when they're not in use. So we can turn the lights on, turn the lights off when resources don't need to be active. The other step behind, stopping an instance would be deleting resources. So here we can set a set of conditions that allow us to look at unused EBS volumes. We can see here we've had EBS volumes that have been unattached for over a week. Therefore they might be a good candidate to delete those volumes because they're no longer in use. The other thing to point out here is the extensibility of the platform. We support additional integrations like notifications through Slack, running Lambda functions to further integrate with the business processes that might already be in place for resource reduction and waste management. And then also, standard notifications through email. If you can go to the next slide, please. And then how do we bring it all together, right? One of the things we talked about at the beginning was, is the juice worth the squeeze, right? Is it worth the effort to go and reduce the waste and optimize these things? And a big part of that is bringing the different personas in the company together in one place to collaboratively make that decision. Here we can see the opportunities that we have in place to resize or terminate different resources based on those policy blocks that we found. We can look at the projected monthly savings of, should we decide to take these actions, what is the financial impact that we would have? We can also look at things like CPU average utilization savings in terms of how do I optimize my resources from an operational standpoint? And this also gives finance and maybe non-engineering personas the opportunity to log in and really understand the value of the work that the FinOps team is doing. So we can then use waste reduction and resource management as a vehicle to drive the culture of FinOps, get everybody on the same page, speaking the same language, and give them one unified experience and portal to log into. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And moving on to the same topic with Cloudability, it's Maddie.
All right. Thank you very much, everybody. So today we're going to talk about cost optimization and avoiding waste. So Cloudability is designed as an end-to-end FinOps solution that can help in every stage of the inform, optimize, and operate. I know in our last vendor showcase, we discussed cost allocation challenges with Kubernetes, tags, account structures, things like that. Today, we're going to dive into the optimization side of the house. So right now, you're looking at our right sizing explorer. I think the number one things that customers look for is, where do I have my opportunity space for optimization? Broken out by cloud provider, broken out by different cloud service, different type of action. Do I want to right size? Am I terminating idle? Am I potentially looking for more dynamic usage around auto scaling? And then potentially sorting by your apps, your internal customers, whatever your allocation logic may be. so that from a central FinOps perspective, you understand where you have opportunities for savings, what teams are falling behind, and what teams are performing very well. You want to hit the next slide? Now, within right sizing, a few key considerations that Cloudability has is we generate up to 5 recommendations for every resource with up to 20 available through the API. That is specifically because, and someone mentioned this earlier, right sizing is always a trade-off that you're making between performance, cost, security. And we want to provide a what-if analysis to our end users to understand there's always a range of different options available. What makes most sense for your needs? The other big thing here is going broad across different services. So we right size things like RDS, Redshift, SQL, Kubernetes, beyond the traditional IaaS layer, because customers tend to have more and more in those PaaS SQL type services. And also the ability to handle auto scaling groups and container bin packing, right? So if you have a heavily Kubernetes leveled environment, you're likely going to be leveraging auto scaling groups or scale sets in Azure in order to run that infrastructure. And so we can right size those as well as individual EC2 resources. Do you want to hit the next slide for me, JR? Now, what I was looking at before was an EC2 recommendation, actually factoring in GPUs as well for kind of larger scale usage. We're now actually looking at an RDS recommendation coming out of Cloudability, where we look at both the RDS cluster or PaaS resource, and then the associated storage and provide recommendations there. Here, we're looking at more of not a right size or an auto scale elastic recommendation, but more of a, this database isn't being used, right? We see no active connections into this running PaaS resource. We see very low CPU, very low memory and throughput. And so from here, we can start to institute policies to say, when we see something that's been idle for X amount of time, we may want to shut this off. We may want to alert the different engineering team or owner based on their allocation. But I always like to show this to encompass, waste and things that are idle is kind of the lowest hanging fruit. We then move into right sizing and actually managing resources to demand. And then finally, we move into auto scaling recommendations. Where do you have opportunities for elasticity across your different cloud services, cloud providers? Hit the last slide for me, JR. Amazing. Now, the number one thing we hear after we've helped customers to begin right sizing and push this across the organization is, how do I track savings for leadership? So we do that through direct integrations with change management or directly in Cloudability, either Jira, ServiceNow, or in Cloudability, tracking who owns these actions, have they been approved? And then a lot of our customers are also leveraging our API to start automating this through their traditional CI/CD pipelines using things like Terraform, CloudFormation, Azure DevOps. And then they also use unit economics to measure these efficiency gains over time. Boom, that's how you do 4 minutes. Thank you, everybody.
Perfect. Thank you. Moving on to the last challenge in this section. Baz, do you want to talk us through aligning finance with technology?
Yeah, for sure, Steve. So, all things being equal, and maybe this will change in the future, generally speaking, Eng doesn't speak finance and finance doesn't speak Eng. But FinOps is essential for building a common language between these two groups. And really, finance wants to understand how new technologies will impact the business. Engineering and our technologists needs to work with them to unlock their ability to forecast, do analysis on the cloud billing data, overlay accounting constructs, and help them with audit and compliance. So to do all this, collaboration between these groups is key. And our first presenter in this section is Ternary, and I'll turn it over to Mike.
Thanks, Baz. Hopefully I can stick the landing like Maddie just did. Okay, so we do a lot of things at Ternary. I do want to focus in on this specific use case about the collaboration aspect of what we can provide. When we are talking about this space, we're trying to reduce the friction between teams and trying to work with the existing tooling they have in place. The last thing you want to bring into an organization is yet another interface, yet another set of pages they have to look at every day. You can hit the next page here, please. So what we're going to do is going to start the discussion with, how do you activate people to make the right decisions and to do the right things? It's getting it into their normal workflow. So this is something that will show up in an inbox. People can subscribe to the information about the projects that they're attached to, the specific assets that they're responsible for. And if there are violations of an overspend, or if there is a recommendation available in one of those projects, the individuals who are subscribed to that notification will receive something like this in their inbox. You can hit the next page now. And what will happen is they can navigate directly in. Now, the key with what we're doing here is we're allowing them to interact around that recommendation. So thank you for telling me that there is a savings available. Who do I need to work with on this? So we actually have within the platform itself the ability to collaborate around those decisions. Is this something that's designed? Is it something that we want to take action on? Is it something that we should not take action on? All of that can take place directly within Ternary. Individuals can invite others into a discussion to see, what do you think about this? The goal being, how do we work with to collaborate around a specific decision? It's never one individual who can make that decision solely on their own. The other aspect is being able to link this to their existing solutions. So this is all great. It gives me a workflow. I can see the back and forth between the teams. When something wants to be actioned, what do I do with that? Can you next, please? We can integrate directly within the solutions that are currently in place. So, I apologize for this. So that came in and out of order. Being able to show somebody that they made a change and be able to track that change. So if you did make that savings recommendation, implement that savings recommendation, it will show up and allow that to be tracked as an action that was taken. Hit next, please. But this is where I wanted to go. Is I don't want to bring in yet another workflow. So Jira, Snowflake, ServiceNow, whatever you're using as your deployment schema, your CMDB, we want to be able to work within that. So being able to take a recommendation directly from Ternary and hand it off into a workflow where it can be tracked, ticketed, and accumulated over there, ends up in a sprint, ends up being affected because it's actually now assigned to somebody. That's a really important aspect of this. So get the information to the right people, let them decide whether this is something they want to implement or not, and allow them to go ahead and take that directly into their DevOps tools is important. And one thing, not to take a broadside at automation, but it was mentioned a couple of times, and I fully agree with the statement, automation can only get you so far. There will at some point be the person whose hand has to click the mouse button to actually make the change. Automate. Let's get to the point where we've assembled the data correctly. We've given all the information that's available. We've organized it so the folks can all decide it's the right action to take. But at some point, a human's going to have to make that change and agree to it. Let's take this into the normal workflow so it ends up being executed with just a normal day-to-day operation, and no new tools are required here. Right? It's all about reducing friction and making sure that folks are taking the actions that are being recommended. And here's where we really wanted to come back. We talk about the Prius effect, being able to give the information back to people to say that change you made back in the middle of the month actually did realize savings. So we want to be able to reward, chalk up the win. That thing that we recommended back on the 15th, you did, and then you can see the savings starting to show up immediately. It's all about closing that virtuous loop. You took the action, the team agreed, it was executed, and now you actually have that savings realized. That's really where you can get that full cycle back and forth. And thank you very much.
You did it. You did it. Spot on. Okay, time for a bit of a breath, bit of a break, but we haven't got time to break. I'm only joking. We're going to move on to breakouts. We have some great talkers, some great presenters still to come, some great partners to kind of show their slides. So please take note.
JR here from the FinOps Foundation. Thank you for watching. Please go to FinOps.org if you want to get plugged into this amazing community. And of course, hit subscribe right here on YouTube to get all the future content. Hope to see you soon.